All right, good afternoon. This one's for the Australian Labor Party representative Jessica Slovlosky. I think that's it. In my job, I have to present a whole bunch of different things because this is the environment that is being projected all around us. It requires lots of different hats and uniforms to be displayed at different times to appropriately present relevant and adequate responses and present questions, sometimes present accusations, and a very difficult task, all taking place on what is described by the Australian Labor Party as social media. I refer to it as society, as the Australian people presenting their digital presence. And so a lot of the hostile talk and speech, obviously, because I'm now taking part in a state government competition, or not competition, race, whatever it's called. I'm presenting a question to the member that claims that she is representing the area that I'm currently in. I don't need to swear. I don't need to make any threats or anything. I'm just basically presenting a question to the relevant party representative in the area that I'm currently in. Why are you clearing the way for a Chinese invasion? And why are you hindering the defence protocol of British Empire descendants, individuals, families, households in Western Australia? Why are you claiming to represent a policy to end domestic violence, gendered violence, whilst participating in actual domestic violence, not household violence between partners, especially not elevated arguments between households in Western Australia that have been elevated due to new created terms and creative examples of what is considered violence. I'm not talking about domestic violence in the sense of that. I'm talking about domestic violence in the legal military sense. Why are you presenting to be concerned with this whilst your government is knowingly imprisoning Australian citizens on newly created interpretations of violence? What are the real rates here going on, and what are the actual incidences, and what is the proportion of these incidences of descendants of the British Empire? This means pre-existing families, existing before Federation, existing before the establishment of the West Australian government itself. What exactly is it that you're doing in that office down there? And why are you clearing the way for an invasion on this soil? Why are you presenting this argument and this constant promotion of violence between romantic partners? You know, if I would take out an ad, I would create a concept like I wanted people to buy something off me. So I establish that this is a thing that people do by presenting images of it. and displaying it, and then I promote it by establishing, there's a disconnect there, that there's a need that people want that is not being filled, and then I place my product there. What exactly are you promoting if it's not violence between romantic partners and families? Basically, my claim is that you and your comrades, as you would probably call it, you are attempting to infest young women, actually all women in this country, with the idea that they are being attacked and not defended. And there's a lot of questions that follow that. They're not just being attacked, they're being attacked by their romantic partners and not being defended. In what environment are they being attacked in, and in what environment are they not being defended in? I'm getting very confused as to what the uniform response is from Australian Labor Party representatives across the entire country. But as I happen to find myself in Kingsley this morning or this afternoon, I'm presenting this to you. What environment, what place, legally speaking, are you presenting this argument that there is an attack on Australian women and that there is not a defence of the Australian people taking place? See, I think what you've done is you've created a little situation in your mind, all in the echo chamber of the Labor Party rooms, and you've created the situation that invasion and overthrowing and conquering by China is inevitable, so it is actually violence to attempt to defend against their strategies. Is this what's going on? You've all entered and were elected in this social media paradigm. That there is no way that any court could say that you haven't been placed there by distribute. You might say, "Oh, I did a letterbox drop and I knocked on some schools and I went and did this," but no. I've only ever seen you on social media, and I've seen your office while I was getting a Domino's pizza. But how can you have entered this political arena via social media and now be, a representative of a party that is trying to silence this for children? You are setting yourselves as the arbiters of true and right information. And the true and right information you are presenting to the West Australian people is that the women of Western Australia are under attack by their partners. And that no matter what form this attack comes in, that it will be handled quickly and efficiently by our political system, our judicial system, and our community corrections system. But how on this day are you going to tell me that you are not clearing the way for a Chinese invasion and that you are not hindering the innate and instinctual defence mechanisms of Australian men and Australian women, to be honest? Because it seems to me that you are creating an environment of control, of coercive control, and perpetuating an environment of coercive control. You are impeding on the rights of all people. You have impeded on the rights of my children. The only way my children have been able to keep up with what I'm doing is on social media. And this is because of this implanted concept of domestic violence. I was never participating in domestic violence. I was imprisoned for sharing a photo of my family and saying, "Believe it or not, but I will more than likely be put in prison because of this photo. And this is not the fault of anyone in the photo." This went through every level of courts. This went through 9 months of continuously bringing it up with one of your Polish comrades in our community corrections public service. I'm very concerned about this Polish phenomenon in Western Australia. Very, very, very concerned. I don't believe that you, as an immigrant here, more than likely, I'm assuming, from Poland, I don't believe that you truly understand where you are enough to be holding the positions that span somehow from Kingsley to Peel. What a strange, strange organisation the West Australian Labor Party is. I know that you like to say that, your opposition is misogynistic. Misogynistic, right? I would say the least misogynistic thing that an Australian citizen can do, especially a man, would be to defend his family against an invasion. I would say the most misogynistic thing you could do is to corrupt and hinder Australian men from defending Australia and West Australia in turn, and civilising the new created environments that have pervaded our digital ecosystem here in the form of this. Now, I don't have high hopes that I'll get a response, because the Australian Labor Party has classified social media right alongside illegal drugs and criminal activity. That's what you're doing, isn't it? It's illegal to talk to your representatives. It's illegal to address your partner with concerns for the direct security of our region. It's illegal to be in defense of this region against this invasion in your mind. In the mind and in the propaganda that you have distributed on social media. I'll inform you all that, like, my zany, wacky strangeness that I present on here is so that you purposefully underestimate what exactly it is that I'm doing and what exactly my historic bonds are to this nation and to the nation that conceived it. It was Hitler's invasion of Poland that really brought the British, which included Australia, the British Empire, which included Australia, which included Western Australia, which included Kingsley, except Kingsley was just a big grass field with a couple of beautiful lakes in it. It wasn't dotted with these concentration camp-like bungalows that are all plugged into the internet, ready and waiting for the CCP to strip our voices from social media and inflict their digital social credit system that you seem to be distributing like it's Amway. But on what grounds? What understanding do you have of this place to make these claims? I've explained in all my content that I believe my attempt at dialogue with my children's mother was quite possibly the most gentlemanly, the most passive, civilized example of an attempt to intervene in what can only be described as provoked clan warfare. But who provoked it? Well, you did. You've provoked it. There is no response. And so, provably, you have created a system very much like, and I can't remember the exact name of the study, but hopefully you can go and use Google and find it. There was a study in which people were placed in another room and given the directions to apply an electric charge to an opposing person in a room that they couldn't see, but they could hear. and there was kind of an experiment where people were actually doing it, and people were falsely yelling and screaming, all types of things. And it was seen that if an authority figure gave direction or or paved the way with promotional activity, that people on a very statistically high occurrence would apply a lethal and above lethal electrocution to the person on the other side of the room. This is what you've created. This is what your domestic violence crisis is. You're the authority figure. The electric shock is our prison system, is our police system. Not prepared, not trained, they have no training to deal with complicated, multiculturally and multi-religious, multi-ideologically, stratified communities such as Kingsley. But that doesn't seem to matter. In your mind, it is your God-given right, whatever God it is that you follow. Do you follow any teachings of God? Is there any type of text that you can actually put your hand on and swear on this day if you were forced to? If you were forced to present to a jury of your peers, is this something that you can do? What exactly are you basing this domestic violence pandemic or epidemic on? I've read quite thoroughly about what it was that the Nazis did to Poland. Not just the Jews, but the entire thing. I've read quite intensely about what Poland has been subject to from all types of things, from the Soviets then coming in after the fall of the Nazis, from discrimination from Germans, from the eradication of the Jewish population. All these things in Poland are really vital to bring to the awareness. Now, if you're not from Poland, I apologize for the kind of assumption. But I've scoured all your resources. I don't see much else about you. I see you presenting the same thing over and over again on social media. You're creating an environment, or you're trying to create an environment that is priming the young people of this country to only see social media as negative. So I want to see. There's no threats. You know what I mean? There's a clear, calm, cool-headed communication or attempted communication. This is coming from someone who is in other arenas, which is complicated to explain, but in other arenas, I'm confronting quite intense levels of violence, real violence, not sharing a photo and trying to, kind of play an elevating chess match of digital passive aggression. I'm talking about real serious violence and preparation for violence in the global sphere. So what exactly are you, as Kingsley's representative, what is it you're doing on this day? Now that this information has found its way to you, what are you currently in the process of doing to this country and to this state by your example? How can this conflict exist where you are, as the Labor Party, as United Australian Labor Party, you are condemning social media to the reject pile of the world, but still distributing on it calculated marketing material that could only be seen as to be promoting the negative opinion of Australian men and preparing Australian women to succumb and to submit to a Chinese invasion? That's violence. That's cultural genocide. That's some Nazi shit being projected all over your social media profiles. Now, whatever you do from now is your choice. What, are you going to take a step into non-violent communication like you claim? What is the example? That Jessica Slovlowski is setting here in this type of conversation? The Australian Labor Party is clearly determined that social media activity is a harmful, newly emergent environment for children. Enough so to attempt to formulate some type of banning protocol and policy that is going to limit or completely restrict all Australian children under the age of 16. So what is it that you're doing about arguments resulting politically around this issue? I've produced some marketing content myself, and I've claimed that basically a ban of social media without banning the device. I've asked both my children's mother and her 6-time violence restraining order carrying husband that I would like the iPhones that they distributed to my children and that they phoned the police on and that they reported my social media and blocked my social media and then stalked my social media all on iPhones. I'd like to understand how a handheld device that has wreaked this much havoc on one family, and I can only assume many, many, many others, is being ignored. Do you have an iPhone? Is that what you would swear your oath on if you were forced to in a court of law? Would it be on your iPhone? A handheld changing device that, a walled garden by its own marketing material? Is that what you're trying to create in Western Australia? Are you trying to create a Polish walled garden? Are there a lot of yin yangs and Zen gardens in your Polish walled garden that you're building here in Kingsley on iPhones? Just all things that I'm just curious about. I've got to send this in a pigeon all the way back to Mount Wise in Plymouth, which is the headquarters for the Royal Navy. And then that goes through a whole complicated process of telegraph and telex and Morse code and signals through infrastructure that we still operate all across the world. It helps me if I get a clear answer. As the representative for Kingsley, we might just one at a time this. We might just listen. Are you surrendering Kingsley right now? Because that would help. Perhaps Catherine, whatever her name is, the one, the Dutch one that is in Hillary's, perhaps she could follow quickly behind, and then we could allow British ships to dock in Hillary's, and then we've got a clear little settlement here between Kingsley and Hillary's. We can rid at least these regions, and then maybe we can attempt to walk all the way through, say, Whiteman Park, Swan View, up towards Gidgigana, out towards 2J, continuously keep going all the way out to, maybe Kalgoorlie, end up on the West Australian, South Australian border, and then we can claim that this communist Nazi invasion or infiltration is contained to this below that southern line. I don't want to have to resort to anything violent, So it's really going to be testament to your capabilities as a non-violent communicator as to how you handle this conversation, which I've presented and attempted to present respectfully, and I have to fill in a lot of gaps because it's one-sided and there's absolutely never, ever a reply from any of you. In fact, I'm blocked by the E-Safety Commissioner, the Australian Labor Party, the West Australian Labor Party, Roger Cook, and all of you, really. So would you agree that you have perhaps participated in, maybe unknowingly, a degradation of Australian culture held within our thing? In this moment that we really should have been adapting, you've been kind of filling it with spam about how women are being mistreated and that we're not under attack or potential attack digitally, physically, geographically, environmentally. However, we may be under attack by hostile forces, most prominently the Chinese Communist Party. So once you reply with all of these things and you make a decision on how you're going to to move down to Peel, you know what I mean? There's tons of jobs, salvaging copper and rehabilitating meth addicts down there. You'll be closer to Roger. He's down in Kwinana. I just think that you've got to really dump this Kingsley, and I would suggest the same from Catherine. I think her name's Catherine. To do the same with Hillary's and just surrender back. You've got to give up ground, otherwise violence and conflict. Communication really is a vital tool to keep harmony in all regions of Earth. You know what I mean? We are speaking English here. We're using our words. We're talking. We're trying to map out exactly the differences and clear differences in our ideology. Your party wants a racetrack and to duct tape children's mouths up. My party wants to liberate Australians from interference from communist dictatorships. 6-7, you know what I mean? But if it's not being held in conversation, then I would basically declare that this is the passive-aggressive feminist onslaught, and that's how the history books will describe it. The liberation movement, the feminists, the equal rights, all these things that were fought for hard by women, the suffragette movement, my family in establishing very early on these things in a lot of different places. Maybe not here in Western Australia, but definitely in Tasmania, definitely in England. So do we really want to, end all of that wonderful growth and progression by towing the line of a Chinese communist, feminist, passive-aggressive, avoidant strategy of hindering the instinctual and the very organised, in my case? It might have started instinctual, but this is organised. The organised and, authority-given defence of this region on behalf of the Commonwealth and on behalf of the British Empire. Once you get your head around all of it, I know that some of these might be new and you might be thinking, I just thought I'd go and cut ribbons, and I don't know. I'm trying not to resort to these kind of underhanded tactics, and I'm trying to, if you're going to go down to Peel, I don't want this whole Kingsley, situation to affect you as you land in ground zero for the meth crisis, also more than likely imported by the Chinese Communist Party. I don't want you to go there with any hindrance. I want you to be effective in whatever it is exactly that you are trying to do. I don't want to be seen as affecting your reputation or slandering you or anything like that. I'm really just trying to get down to an exact answer so that we know how to go forward. And like in all conflicts, if this can be handled with conversation, we're all the better for it. So yeah, I hope you're enjoying your day. It's very hot today. I think it's 38 degrees, which is very hot compared to Poland. We haven't done really good studies about how Poland's very cold, obviously, how Polish people go in the harsh, dry, hot heat of Western Australia. So as you're sweating, you're probably not sweating, you're probably in an air-conditioned office, aren't you? None of this, if this elevates to a military conflict, none of this is going to take place in air-conditioning offices. There won't be any air conditioning because the grid will be put down. The social media that's there will be put down. Every kind of thing that you're thinking that you're doing all the good things that you think you're doing as you, receive your email from Xi Jinping and read it out to the West Australian people, all of that's going to disappear. And although, in those conditions, you will be treated fairly and given, an equal opportunity to stand trial and all these things against these accusations, I just don't think that the migrants from those colder climates are going to handle the unair-conditioned prisons and the unair-conditioned asylum facilities. You know what I mean? We do the best that we can, but we can't exactly provide war criminals with air conditioning like that, especially after, we've been very pushed back in our defense of this region. So, take a second, stand outside for 20 minutes, acclimatise to the hideous heat here, and take a big, deep breath, and then give me the answer that you feel is appropriate for this situation. Okay, thanks, Jess.